You're watching the Eternal Tournament Series.
Hello and welcome to round 4 of week 6 of the Eternal Tournament Series. I am Truedawn, joined by Rhino.
Hello.
And we have a cool matchup between Hulkbuster on mostly Horu control and tvkelley on Combre.
Yep, so we've got a classic little matchup of control versus big mid-range. And yeah, this Huru control list is sweet. It's been something I was excited to see in this post-balance patch meta game where Staff of Stories got nerfed overall, maybe, but in this metagame, and especially against a deck like Combre with no reach, that card can be brutal to go up against. So this deck really highlights how good Staff of Stories can be, especially backed up and paired with a Throne Warden. Once that thing gets up to that kind of life total, it's really hard to deal with. And then it's just backing it up with a boatload of removal and card draw.
Yeah, Staff of Stories still provides the same inevitability it did before, just slightly easier to kill. Although the 1 armor doesn't matter a lot. There's not a lot of things that do 4 but not 5. So it still fills the same function. It still can just overwhelm a game if you're able to protect it. So I definitely would like to see how this deck plays out. If its answers are able to deal with what tvkelley is presenting, which by the looks of it is just a pretty stock big Combre build. 4 of all the good cards, couple of main deck stand-togethers, 4 Mystic Ascendant, 4 Iron Thorn. Not a lot new here, same old stuff.
Right. The main deck is what you expect it to be. The 2 stand-togethers being probably the key in this matchup to preserve your threats against the Vanquishes and Harsh Rules that are coming from your opponent. Your own Harsh Rules not going to be that great. The one really notable thing here, though, is 0 main deck Vanquish. Am I looking at that right, or am I just
that is correct? They're actually 0 Vanquished in the 75.
Yes,
or the 90.
Man, so like normally you'd expect like these Thunderstrike Dragons to eventually come down for Huru control and just get vanked right off the bat, and that's not going to happen here. They're just going to get to sit there until they get ruled away or grounded by silence. But man, tvkelley is like, I'm just going to lean on the Harsh Rules and Iron Thorn activations to push through what I need to push through here.
Yeah, that's gonna put tvkelley in a really weird spot post sideboard, because he'll need to remove some of Hulkbuster's large threats, but outside of that, Harsh Rule's pretty bad. So we'll see how that dynamic ends up playing out as we move into game 1.
Yep. So tvkelley's on the play and tight on power. Not an ideal combination when you're sitting in having their hand with double Mystic Ascendant. So he's hoping to just find the way, although he's only playing 2 find the ways in this list too. So, ooh boy, this might be rough for tvkelley. Meanwhile, Hulkbuster's just going to draw cards.
Yeah, we do see tvkelley does end up missing 3rd power, whereas Hulkbuster's just going to second sight here, just cantrip. I don't think there's a lot of synergies with it in this deck. I think he's just playing it as a 2-minute cantrip.
Just the 2 Thunderstrike Dragons from what I saw. There's no kind of Jotun Hurlers or anything like that going on. It's just he has 2 Thunderstrike Dragons, and he'll randomly get to put those on top and get an extra dragon out of the deal.
That's certainly potent enough to have a card that early game could smooth things out, draw power when you need it, and also just make another 5/6 flyer later in the game. So I definitely like that. And yeah, tvkelley's still missing power. Hulkbuster just throwing out this Orc Runehammer because why not?
Yeah,
although it will get tagged by this Desert Marshal.
Yep, Kelly has the Desert Marshal to answer this hammer, but that's fine. Hulkbuster can just move on to Staff of Stories plan. Although Kelly actually has a board that can kind of pressure, so it may have to be a little bit more patient with this staff.
Yeah, he might. It's awkward because you want to like Roland's favor cleanly first. So he could actually, you just play the staff here. It'll take 3. 3 isn't 4. Then you could like Roland's favorite or Harsh Rule.
Is a risk by playing this staff because your opponent is playing 2 stand-togethers that it could just die right here.
Yeah, that's certainly possible. I think you're okay with taking that risk, though.
Yeah. I mean, your opponent has been stuck on spells. It's leads you to reason that there's probably some number of spells there. And Kelly did find the way, which is great, but now is kind of pressured into getting pressure on this board. Of course, Hulkbuster has a really clean just Harsh Rule here. and that'll give them plenty of time to set up the defenses for this staff. Now Kelly's gonna be trying to both catch up on this board, but while he does that, he's gonna fall really far behind in the cards. Now, of course, the Mystic Ascendants could eventually carry him out of that, but it might be too little, too late. We'll have to see.
Especially if
it gets off the top of this deck here.
We saw tvkelley considering whether to use that turn to develop his mana with Find the Ways. We decided to just play Sandstorm Titan, and Hulkbuster has a bunch of single target removal, and since tvkelley's going to have to play single threat every turn, it's just going to keep killing that one by one. The staff's going to keep drawing cards, and these Channel of Tempests are going to it's going to be overwhelming. I think that tvkelley's just fallen too far behind at this point.
Yeah, now Hulkbuster even found Eye of Winter, already took out tvkelley's 2 Sandstorm Titans, so the rest of tvkelley's units are basically going to get shut down by this Eye of Winter, and now Hulkbuster, he's just going to start
just upstairs.
Channel the Tempest your face for, what is this, 8? Yeah.
And the other 2 are lethal over 2 turns, so Hulkbuster has path.
Yeah, there's a Combre Healer in tvkelley's hand, and it looks like you might opt to play that plus like a Seraph here or something like that. Oh, that Justice the Sigil is depleted. Never mind. Yeah, so he's got I don't know, whatever he plays is either going to get locked down. I think you play something large enough. All right, I don't know if I play a Vanquish target there. I might go with the Seraph, but he's so far behind. I don't know.
That's just gonna see if you and we're gonna see Hulkbuster just go upstairs with the Channel of the Tempest because the next turn is lethal. He's gonna lose the staff, but it doesn't really matter.
I don't think you mind losing a staff when you have 10 cards. I think you'll live. Yeah. He's got a discard to hand size. I don't think he minds losing staff here. He has to discard 2 or 3.
This is just
Wisdom and another channel. I think you'll live with your staff.
Yeah, having the information of deck, because both players have deck lists in this tournament, he knows that tvkelley has no main deck protects. He knows that Combre Healer, it doesn't gain enough life to change that this is going to be lethal next turn. So we just see the aggressive Channel of Tempest going upstairs. Nothing's going to change it from tvkelley. And then here is the big old lightning storm.
Yeah, Kelly was just simply too far behind from the get-go. Like I said, we mulliganed into a 2-power hand and was on the play. And that just wasn't going to get it done.
Yeah, that was the horror control deck kind of functioning on all cylinders. Even though tvkelley had a slow draw, you saw the game plan of stabilize the board, play a Staff of Stories, then Channel Tempest Dome a couple times. That's how he wants it to go every time. And as we move to sideboard, we'll see him get a couple more tools to help out with that. We see a Fire Sigil on the side of Hulkbuster, and 4 Ruin, 1 Permafrost, 2 Thunderstrike Dragon, a Valkyrie Enforcer, 3 Lightning Storm, 1 Second Sight, and 2 Backlash.
Yeah, from Hulkbuster's angle, I'm not changing a whole lot here. Probably taking out the Storm, bringing in some number of Backlash, because your opponent's bringing in those decays and protects and such that are lurking in their sideboard. So you want some way to interact on that angle. Just take out like your small removal. Lightning Strike, not that great in this matchup either. I can see those coming out, upping Permafrost and Thunderstrike Dragon counts, just to have some better board impact. But you're not really changing up your game plan or going for those ruins. That's not the matchup that those are for.
Yeah, this more so looks like there are cards in Hulkbuster's main deck that are bad that he wants to side out, not necessarily cards in his sideboard that are exceptionally good that he wants to side in, with the exception of Backlash.
Right, yeah. Like we said, like Lightning Storm, Lightning Strike, pretty underwhelming in this matchup. Wouldn't be surprised if just all those got taken out for more Dragons, Backlashes, and Permafrost's not that great either, but certainly better, I'd say, than overall.
Yeah, definitely. And then on the side of tvkelley, we have 1 Infinite Hourglass, 3 Protect, 3 Dawnwalker, 3 Decay, 1 Scorpion Wasp, 2 Healer's Cloak, and 2 Steward of Prophecy, which I like a lot here.
Yeah, so tvkelley has a lot of good things to bring in there. Basically, the first 4 cards you mentioned, Hourglass, Protect, Dawnwalker, Decay, all seem reasonably powerful in this matchup. I don't know if you bring in all of each of them, but it seems like an aggressive threat like Dawnwalker is exactly what you want in this matchup. Force them to have the silence for it or keep it stunned. But even if they keep it stunned with an Eye of Winter or Permafrost, once they use a harsh rule, it'll come back. So I like that card a lot. And then we mentioned, Decay is the cleanest answer they can possibly have to a Staff of Stories. Protect can be incredibly useful.
Yeah, certainly. I like all of those things. If Dawnwalker's not coming in here, I'm not sure what it's coming in against. Steward of Prophecy interacts favorably with Throne Ward, but outside of that, not a lot. You can make actually Thunderstrike Dragon just takes away flying because it echoes before you draw it. So
Right.
yeah,
you only really shut down one of the dragons, and it doesn't change anything. It's really for Throne Warden, I guess, and Valkyrie Enforcer, and the fact that you're playing a 4/3 for 4. Maybe you just want another aggressive body lower on your curve and just try and go with a beatdown plan instead of I don't even know what you take. Maybe you just
yeah. I think Steward seems a
me-
little bit more marginal, but I definitely like Dawnwalker a lot. I definitely like Protect. Some number of decays probably coming in. So
yeah,
we'll
like
see a lot of that.
Scorpion Wasp isn't that great here. Like, yeah, it's an ambush unit, but it's a low attack ambush unit. Harsh Rule you might want to trim down on just because playing like units total and half of them have Aegis, so that's not super useful. You may just try and just maximize as much pressure and disruption as you.
Yeah, I imagine he can't get these harsh rolls out of his deck fast enough. Probably Scorpion Wasp also a bit underwhelming. So we will see as the challenge has been issued. We should be moving into game 2 here shortly. We see the accept happen there.
Yeah, so tvkelley is down a game, but it looks like he gains a lot more from his sideboard than his opponent does.
Very
so
true, yes.
We'll see if he can help shore up and tie up this best of 3.
He also has the benefit of having a much better hand than he had in game 1. He is able to cast all of his spells, has this Temple Scribe to smooth things out. And Hulkbuster, on the other hand, actually has a pretty slow hand, not a lot of interaction. There's the Eye of Winter, but outside of that, not a lot going on.
Yeah, and also doesn't have double primal, much less triple primal yet. And those Roland's favors aren't going to help him with that. He may just use Second Sight here instead. And yeah, that looks like what he's going to opt to do.
Yeah, and he gets a 5/6 for free while he's digging for that blue mana from the Second Sight. So
the real issue here is if Second Sight whiffs on a primal source, you know you're whiffing for a couple turns still.
Yeah, it gets locked by the Second Sight. I don't know what we call it in this game. It was Brainstorm locked in Magic, but we'll have to Second Sight locks, I guess. But and then he doesn't find he gets power, which is fine, but
yeah, so he gets power, but he doesn't get primal power. Now, his next draw could be primal power, right? You're only locking yourself out for
because he did it on end step.
But and it just means you have to play an Eye here instead of a Wisdom. It's not the end of the world. tvkelley's just putting stuff on the board, but not any kind of real pressure yet. So from Hulkbuster's side, he's still got plenty of time to catch.
Yeah, he gets this Eye of Winter to cold the first big threat that tvkelley plays. There's a Valkyrie. He's probably not going to play it yet. He wants that sounds like value. Roland's favor essentially gains 4. It sucks to lose some of the armor. You really want that to go to staff, but he doesn't have a lot of choice here.
Right. And yeah, this Valkyrie is actually really important paired with the fact that he has Eye of Winter. It means now Eye of Winter can even answer, say, a Sandstorm Titan if it was to come out from Kelly. Now, Kelly doesn't have a Sandstorm Titan, and also just drew a Decay off the top. But I don't think tvkelley's in a rush to use this Decay on an Eye of Winter. He's concerned about a possible staff showing up.
And we see a little bit of an aggressive play. We see tvkelley play the naked Iron Thorn there, not getting value from his trigger the first turn. But it doesn't look like he's going to get super punished for here. It's just going to be the silence. Well, the silence does make it so he can't gain power. And that actually does matter for tvkelley because now this Mystic Ascendant doesn't really have the prospect of drawing cards.
And Hulkbuster, I just want to mention this, wisely did that play in the correct order. If you stun and then silence, you will then silence your own stun. So he did silence then stun, but of course tvkelley has their own silence to free the Iron Thorn, and then decides to pull the trigger on this Decay and just get really aggressive.
There is a seek power for these, so the Primal Sigil, now these Wisdom of Elders get to start churning out. We'll get to spend this turn drawing some cards. There's the third source, so these dragons start coming down. So Hulkbuster should be in a reasonable spot moving forward. And tvkelley is a little choked on mana, and we see him getting a little punished by throwing out that Iron Thorn naked. He would be at 7 mana this turn instead.
Yeah, but your opponent had to have the silence for it or a kill spell for it. I think based on where your hand was and how much other gas you have in the tank, his line of play was reasonable. Now Hulkbuster has to be like, well, these dragons normally are risky to play here, except my opponent has 0 Vanquish in their deck. So it's actually just a super clean answer to their board state.
Yeah, these dragons are actually highly problematic for tvkelley.
Yeah, like tvkelley doesn't have Vanquish in his entire 90, and this 5/6 is just gonna blank this 5/5 that's here for now. It's pretty amazing.
Yeah, maybe tvkelley's able to get up to these Seraphs and hit like a flyer that's big enough, but
Sure.
outside of that, he does not have the prospect of doing it. And it's weird if he doesn't fire off this Find the Way and he doesn't.
Yeah.
Leaving up to K for, I guess, Staff of Stories, but now he's put himself in a spot where he can't play Mystic Draw card unless he draws a sigil, which he did, very luckily for him. But he put himself in a weird spot there.
And this backlash was a huge draw for Hulkbuster because like the only clean answer to these dragons from your opponent is basically Harsh Rules if they kept them in. And you also have it for Standing Together, which is the other way that the 5/5 on your opponent's end can trump you.
Yeah, this backlash is likely to be very good on one way or another. And then second side actually represents another 5/6.
Yeah, unless he wants to play another 5/6 here and get aggressive. But you are at 13. It's a little concerning.
Chill Tempest, also very
Vanquish.
Good. And Vanquish. Oh, Vanquish, now there's just so much gap.
Yeah, now you can swing with a 5/6. You get to hold up Wisdom and Backlash. Ooh, opts to play the. Okay, I when I can have the luxury of holding up Backlash, I usually do. I don't think you really need to tap out here.
It's certainly a little aggressive. He's going to get punished by the decay, but I'm not sure the game's even about Staff of Stories anymore. He has the Chill Tempest. He's going to have another or two more 5/6s.
It's more just I don't know the advantage of getting Staff down on that turn when you could have just cast Wisdom and held up Backlash and still drawn 2 extra cards anyways.
That is very true. Yeah,
it
probably was needlessly aggressive. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just I think just drawing your 2 cards instead is way better there. He's just he knows his opponent has basically nothing going on, can't be holding up. Stand Together just deals with the board now, and tvkelley is in rough shape here. Just facing down an army of dragons and really has no efficient way of dealing with them.
It's like a minor thing, but I don't love the Vanquish on the Silence Ironthorn before. You already have the 5/6 that colds it, and you had the backlash for Stand Together if they want to attack in using trick or whatever.
You left yourself with no answers to Sandstorm Titan.
Yeah, or if Sandstorm Titan, or if they draw Mystic Ascendant, like you become cold to things you didn't need to be.
Right. I think we can both agree Hulkbuster may be playing as a control deck a little too aggressively, but still just totally dominating this game. And
I think it's only a little aggressively. I think it's not like the decisions weren't like wrong by a lot or even like objectively wrong. It's just he has played this game like really trying to turn the corner fast and has gotten punched in some spots, but is also presenting lethal now.
It was kind of weird to just draw more cards when you could have just played 2 huge units. You're already on 12 power. You could have played 2 more dragons or a Throne Warden and a dragon or something. Instead, opted to draw cards. But again, this is all kind of nitpicky. He's pretty far ahead. There's not really a whole lot that tvkelley can do to.
tvkelley needs a big flyer off of this, and the Practice Displacer gets one. Practice Displacer plus the Combo Killer makes it so he's not dead.
Not dead, and gets to get this 4/4 out of the way. So
getting a little aggressive. He's attacking for 16. Like this stranger's large.
Yeah.
So maybe we see some corner turning if the next Seraph activation is good. Although, never mind, there's a Challenge Tempest in, right? No, it was used already. Yeah, no. Not dead.
And Kelly's also just tapping out here. So, I mean, Hulkbuster, once he can just be like, all right, let's mulligan. Harsh Rule, hit you for 10, Harsh Rule, hold up Backlash, play some threats. Like, Backlash is lethal here. And that looks like what he's going to do.
Yeah, I definitely anticipate that being the line of play. That just... Because the way you lose the game is by Seraph hitting like a 10/10 Akari or something, or Relance Honor Guard, I guess.
Yeah, so like you had, if you're in tvkelley shoes, you have to play the heal to not die, but it also means you can't represent Stand Together. And that just lets Hulkbuster go, oh, all right, here's another dragon. I'm holding up Backlash. Let's see.
Yeah, just a very good spot for Hulkbuster. There's Sandstorm Titan, which blocks this without a backlash, but
we did mention that, and
there's Tempest.
All right, and that'll seal up this game. And Hulkbuster just casually has 6 more dragons in hand, just in case that wasn't enough.
Just for good measure, yeah.
That deck's sweet. That was beautiful.
Yeah, that was a very, very good performance by the Horu control deck, winning that matchup 2-0. Pretty dominating performance there. And
Yeah,
it's definitely an archetype I like.
Yeah, like the Combray deck had unanswered decays that hit targets they wanted to hit with it. They activated their Seraph. They cantripped off their Mystic Ascendants. Didn't matter. Just too many dragons. I mean, like we said, tvkelley not having Vanquish just made a lot of those positions really awkward. Not saying he would have drawn them, but the fact that they weren't even outs and that Hulkbuster didn't even have to worry about them was a huge deal.
Yeah, it's super cool that the Horu deck now has so many potent endgame cards to turn the corner. They just need to stall the game out a little bit, and then they just have Thunderstrike Dragon, Channel the Tempest, get to run everything over. But we do have a backup match between Thundershot and Quaywizix. There's a bunch of consonants there. I'm not sure how that's supposed to be pronounced. But we are in... I'm actually not sure what game it is. I'll get word on that from our people in a second. But you see, at least in this game, a relatively stable board. And we're in game 2. Thundershot is up 1-0. And that's lethal.
So Thundershot's up 2-0?
Yeah, so Thundershot wins the game. So
exciting
very brief backup match. So apologize for that, but you can't help these things sometimes. Sometimes the games just go quick.
I think
we usually try to have backup matches.
Really well played
line up sometimes
by both players.
Yeah.
Really tight decision making from Thundershot there.
Yeah, complex board states.
He found lethal somehow in that complex puzzle.
We're going to attempt to get another backup match for you guys. So while we do that, I'm going to talk about this horror control deck that we saw a little bit more.
I think its formal name is Acaria Blue.
Yes.
I think that's the proper title for it.
Everything is defined by its inclusion or non-inclusion of Acaria.
Yeah, I'm not
these days.
I think that's how Eternal Nomenclature works. You just have to state whether or not Acaria is in the deck.
Yeah, we have like Acaria list Ricardo plate, Acaria list Zenith Control.
Right, exactly. It's important to let people know if Acaria is in the list before they even look at it.
Yeah, but on like a more serious note, I just think that you don't need to, now that you have things like Thunderstrike Dragon and Channel the Tempest, you don't need to splash red, and it's not really splash because it's triple red for Acaria. You actually have really good potent endgame threats in these two colors, and that just makes your deck a lot more consistent. And I think that Horror Control is a deck we're going to see evolving and developed by more players a lot more in the future moving forward, now that we have this much slower format.
Yeah. The slowing down of the format helped. Lightning Strike being more viable in more matchups because of the nerf to Champion of Chaos was a big deal for this deck. Thunderstrike Dragon getting a buff is really awesome for this deck. So it's kind of this whole confluence of things coming together to really make Huru Control a more appealing option, where before you kind of needed fire for other options, and that's why you went towards Acaria. You got access to Torch, which now Lightning Strike isn't on Torch's level, but at least does a decent impression in certain matchups. And we saw it there, just completely house that Combray matchup.
Yep. And it looks like we have found our backup match. It is Lv13David on his Nyctotraxian deck that we saw earlier against Linyvine on some kind of Elysian deck. And I'll check the deck list in a second.
Alrighty.
Okay. So it is an Elysian Medrange deck on the side of Linyvine. And as we join this game in progress, it looks like the board is relatively stable. We will see this Permafrost tag the Dawnwalker. Lv13David is missing red, so he's unable to deploy this Nyctotraxian, and he's also stuck on 5, so he's unable to deploy this Mystic Ascendant. So while he's not under a huge amount of pressure right now, he's not able to be proactive.
The biggest problem there is that he also doesn't have double justice for Harsh Roll, so there's a lot of things he can't do.
Yeah.
But he picks up at least the fire for eventually playing this Nycto. Has a feeding time if he wants to use it here on a, not an ideal target, but I guess with a Harsh Rule in hand, you're like, eventually I should be able to cast this card. Let's just use the feeding time and chrome my Soul Collector
synergy
that I got off Nyctotraxian. Did we say who was up a game here or what game we're on?
This is game 3. Yep.
All right, so it's very cool that we saw the Forsworn Stranger get brought in here. Very good in this matchup, right? Just a 5/5 for 3 against Elysian. It's pretty hard for them to deal with, or it matches up well against their own unit.
Yeah, it blocks a decent amount. We do see the Elysian champion coming in here for 6.
Yep.
Card is in pretty good spot now, and then they did level 13 David did just draw the second justice, so they could fire off the harsh roll if they want to. I'm not convinced they need to. They could probably chump block a turn if they want to, or even just take some hits. So
yeah, especially because you have an 8/8 flyer to match their 6/6 flyer at the moment. Your opponent could just have more removal in hand, but I think you wait for them to show that before you pull the trigger on this harsh roll when you have this much life against a deck with 0 reach.
yeah, he get level 13 David still a pretty high life total. This Soul Collector gains some life when it dies, so you can like chump block, slow things down, so he can actually just bide his time on this harsh roll for a while. It becomes awkward if he plays the Nyx Atraxian, because then his harsh roll is killing his own stuff. It makes things a lot more awkward. You'd really like to play the harsh roll before you have to play the Nyx Atraxian.
I would especially now that you drew that power, like harsh roll into Sword of the Sky King on this board has appeal to it. But he opts to just go with the Nikto here instead, and maybe try and get Linyvine to dedicate even more to the board, and we just see that happen with a Permafrost and a Stormlinks now level 13 David's like, all right, I'm gonna harsh roll. So
depending upon what Linyvine follows up with, this harsh or this Sword of the Sky King could do pretty good work.
Yeah, but if you're Linyvine, you're not committing anything else to this board. You already have 13 damage in play. It's not like you need to play much more else. So,
although worth noting, this harsh roll does kill the Dawnwalker, which then puts it in the graveyard. And then if Linyvine has a 5-power creature, that comes back, putting level 13 David immediately under a huge amount of pressure and making the Sword of the Sky King not survive an attack.
Yeah, David is in a rough spot here, and Find the Way is not going to help him get out of it. But your hands are tied. You got to pull the trigger.
Yeah, you're definitely firing off harsh rolls turn. Yeah,
looks like there was a pause there. Not sure what that could mean.
I'm pretty sure you'd fire off Backlash there if you had it, right?
Yeah, if Linyvine had Backlash, I'd be very surprised if you didn't pull the trigger on Backlash when you have nearly lethal in. Maybe because they know they can get back the Dawnwalker. But you're tight on power. Okay, it's Wisdom. That makes more sense. Because
let's try to scan the deck list for what instance, and they do have Wisdom of the Elders.
In that case, if you're stuck on power, I think you should have main phased Wisdom. But it's all right. Linyvine gets to reload their board here. Dawnwalker comes back, gets to play a 6/6, and still gets to pretend they have Backlash if they have it. Ooh.
And here we see that because the Dawnwalker comes back, the Sword of the Sky King's not great, and they did draw Rise to the Challenge. Yeah. But I'm not sure what that gets here that's good. You could cast in the same turn at least.
Yeah, you're on 9, so you can't get any of your utility 6 drops or anything like that, like Black Sky Harbinger or something. But even that doesn't go toe to toe with a 6/6. You could play the Nikto lottery, but you're taking 10. That's not a good spot. You might just have to use the Sword of the Sky King as this kill a unit, gain a bunch of life kind of thing, and hope Rise finds you a finisher later on.
We do see Rise, so he probably has something in mind. He was thinking a lot before firing off the Rise. He was probably thinking of what he would get. So I assume he has something specific in mind here. Orc Runehammer is reasonable.
Yeah, Runehammer basically does a Sword of the Sky King impression here. Just don't know. I would have preferred to just use Sword of the Sky King if you're going for Hammer. Forsworn Stranger is not doing anything. It doesn't fly. Again,
yeah, these options are all awkward.
Harbinger is a 5/5 off of Rise, so it's still not going to answer this Wisdom, Champion of Wisdom. I guess you're getting Scorpion Wasp here, or maybe try to play the Seraph Lottery in a turn if they don't have their third Permafrost, I guess. And he just opts to go with Forsworn Stranger because it blocks Dawnwalker.
And if Linyvine doesn't have other business, this is fine. You take 6 in the air this turn, but then you get to Sword of the Sky King, kill the 6/6. The 4/1's colded by your 7/5. Although it's unlikely that they have nothing. And as we see, here comes the Xenon Obelisk and even the Initiate for value.
Yeah, that's just brutal. So I liked level 13 David's line of thought there, as far as like, okay, I can remove this Dawnwalker without actually removing the Dawnwalker, right? But yeah, Xenon Obelisk kind of ruins those plans, and now he's in a.
Yeah, like trading it is awful. Not trading it is awful. There's
I
like
think-
no.
I think I
No
traded
good
there
spot.
just because it's like now because at least their power was tied up this turn, they couldn't bring back the Dawnwalker the same turn you killed it. So that means it was basically 2 turns of not seeing a Dawnwalker. Now they're kind of forced to block the Dawnwalker again this turn. I guess
Yes,
not.
you kind of took 5 for no reason, I guess.
Yeah, I mean you could. He was maybe hoping to find an answer to the Dawnwalker, but like now that's just like lethal, right? Not quite lethal.
Also, no attack from the Initiate is odd.
And
Didn't
now
just
this
miss 3 damage.
Yeah, now this goes over, breaks that. Sandstorm Titan comes down. David needs to rip a harsh rule off the top, but has 3 more in his list. Vanquish. Not quite doing it.
Yep,
So, yeah.
not quite enough there. Fortunately, the Nick Detraxian deck goes down.
Yeah,
Lv13's David's memes will not be dreams.
Yeah, so if he had blocked there, like he would have. Yeah, it still would have been really rough. But yeah, that Xenonopolis kind of, best laid plans often can get wrecked by Obelisk.
Yeah, Xenonopolis is just an incredibly powerful card at all stages of the game. Although, really, Linyvine just needed to have kind of anything there. Any additional proactive threat would have been very hard for.
Yeah, the
David
big
to
thing
beat.
was just Dawnwalker is a thorn in a side for most control decks, and it showed off wide.
Yeah. And I believe that was one of the last matches for this round, and we have no more backups. So I think we're going to take a short break and then move into round 5. I think I'm counting right. So for everyone here at the Eternal Tournament Series and Sir Rhino, I'm Truedawn, and we will see you shortly.